Good morning everyone. Today I will discuss the topic of post-harvest technology of cocoa. This topic is extremely important because cocoa is not only one of the world's most valuable agricultural commodities, but also a major source of income for millions of farmers around the world, including Indonesia. When we talk about cocoa production, many people focus only on cultivation practices. However, the quality of cocoa is actually determined not only in the field but also during the post-harvest process. Poor handling after harvest can significantly reduce flavor quality, market value, and export competitiveness. In this presentation, we will explore the complete post-harvest chain of cocoa, starting from harvesting, fermentation, drying, packaging, storage, and finally product diversification. We will also discuss common problems faced by Indonesian cocoa producers and possible solutions to improve quality and value addition. Indonesia is currently one of the largest cocoa producing countries in the world, ranking after Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. One interesting fact is that approximately 70% of Indonesian cocoa production comes from smallholder farmers. This means that the quality of Indonesian cocoa is highly dependent on the knowledge, skills, and post-harvest practices adopted by farmers. Although Indonesia produces a large volume of cocoa, our cocoa often receives lower prices compared to cocoa from some other countries. This is mainly due to quality issues such as inadequate fermentation, high moisture content, contamination, and inconsistent flavor profiles. Therefore, improving post-harvest technology is not simply about preserving the product, it is also about increasing farmer income, strengthening export competitiveness, and developing a sustainable cocoa industry. Before discussing post-harvest handling, it is important to understand the different cocoa varieties because they influence flavor characteristic and processing requirements. There are three major cocoa varieties used in commercial chocolate production. They are Criollo, Forastero, and Trinitario. Each variety possesses unique genetic characteristics, resulting in differences in productivity, disease resistance, bean quality, and flavor complexity. Understanding these differences helps us appreciate why certain chocolates are more expensive and why some cocoa beans are preferred in premium market. Let's start with Criollo. Criollo is often called fine flavor cocoa. It originated in Central America and is highly valued because it produced chocolate with complex flavors, including fruity, floral, and nutty notes. However, Criollo trees are less productive and more susceptible to disease, making them relatively rare. And then the next Forastero. Forastero is the most widely cultivated cocoa variety in the world. It has high productivity and strong resistance to pests and disease. Although its flavor is generally less complex than Criollo, it provides the characteristic chocolate taste most consumers recognize. And the last is Trinitario. Trinitario is a hybrid resulting from a natural cross between Criollo and Forastero. It combines the superior flavor of Criollo with the productivity and disease resistance of Forastero. This balance makes Trinitario highly desirable for specialty chocolate production. Despite its production potential, Indonesian cocoa face several quality challenges. Many cocoa beans are sold without proper fermentation. As a result, they retain excessive bitterness and astringency. Another issue is high moisture content due to inadequate drying. Excess moisture encourages fungal growth and reduces shelf life. Bean size is often inconsistent, making processing less efficient. In addition, contamination from insects, molds, and foreign materials lowers product quality. These problems ultimately reduce market value and limit access to premium chocolate markets. Improving post-harvest management can significantly address this challenge. Developing a strong chocolate industry requires more than producing raw cocoa beans. There are three key factors that influence the success. First is product formulation, which involves developing attractive and innovative cocoa-based products. Second is processing technology, including fermentation systems, drying equipment, and chocolate manufacturing techniques. Third is the availability of suitable machinery and equipment. In many developing regions, limited access to technology and capital slows industrial development. Therefore, investment in technology transfer and farmer education is essential. Currently, a large proportion of Indonesia's cocoa exports still consists of raw beans. Exporting raw materials provides lower economic returns compared to exporting processed products such as cocoa powder, cocoa butter, or finished chocolate. This situation highlights a major opportunity. If Indonesia can process more cocoa domestically, it can generate additional employment, increase export earnings, and create greater value throughout the supply chain. Therefore, strengthening downstream processing industry should be a national priority. This slide illustrates the concept of an industrial cluster. The cocoa industry cluster includes farmers, collectors, processors, manufacturers, researchers, financial institutions, and marketers. When these stakeholders work together effectively, productivity and product quality improve. Strong industry clusters also facilitate technology transfer, innovation, and market access. Countries with successful cocoa industries often have highly integrated value chains that support continuous improvement. The export composition demonstrates how cocoa products are distributed across different product categories. Some cocoa is exported as raw beans, while other portions are processed into cocoa liquor, cocoa butter, cocoa powder, and cocoa products. Generally speaking, the more processed the product, the greater its economic value. This is why many cocoa producing countries are increasingly investing in domestic processing industries rather than relying solely on raw bean exports. Before discussing technical processes, let's review several important terms. Harvesting refers to collecting mature cocoa pods from the tree, and then sorting involves separating good quality materials from defective or contaminated materials. Pod breaking means opening cocoa pods and removing the beans. And then fermentation is a controlled microbial process that develops flavor precursors. Drying reduces moisture content to save storage levels. Packaging and storage protect product quality until distribution. This term form the foundation of cocoa post-harvest management. This flowchart summarizes that the complete post-harvest handling process. The sequence begins with harvesting and sorting. The pods may then undergo ripening or curing before being opened. The beans are removed and subjected to fermentation. After fermentation, the beans may be washed, dry, sorted again, packaged, and stored. Each stage influences the final quality of cocoa beans. Mistakes at any stage can reduce quality and lower market value. Therefore, post-harvest management must be viewed as an integrated system rather than individual operations. And in this slide show the raw material quality requirements. High quality cocoa beans must meet specific criteria. The beans should be fully fermented, have low moisture content, and contain adequate fat levels. Uniform size is also important because it ensures consistent processing during roasting and chocolate manufacturing. Furthermore, beans should be free from mold, insects, stones, and other contaminants. Meeting these quality standards increases acceptance in export markets and improves processing efficiency. And then this is Indonesian national standards, or we call SNI or SNI. Indonesia has established quality standards for cocoa through the National Standardization Agency. The standards specific maximum moisture content, contamination levels, and acceptable defect percentage. For example, moisture content should not exceed approximately 7.5%. The standards also regulate the presence of broken beans, foreign materials, insects, and abnormal odors. Compliance with these standards helps ensure consistency and market acceptance. And then this slide shows detailed cocoa grading classifications. Beans are categorized according to size, fermentation level, defect percentage. Higher grades contain fewer defective beans and better fermentation quality. These grades are important because buyers often determine prices based on quality classifications. Proper post-harvest handling allows farmers to achieve higher grades and receive better price. Harvesting is the first critical step in post-harvest management. Only major pods should be harvested because immature pods contain underdeveloped beans with inferior quality. Harvesting is generally conducted every 2 to 3 weeks. Special care should be taken to avoid damaging the flower cushion, which is responsible for future fruit production. Improper harvesting can reduce productivity and negatively affect subsequent harvests. Good harvesting practices from the foundation of high quality cocoa production. After harvesting, the pods are opened, either manually or mechanically. The beans are separated from the placenta and pod husk. At this stage, the pulp surrounding the beans plays an important role because it serves as the substrate for fermentation microorganisms. However, excessive pulp can delay fermentation and increase acidity. Mechanical pulp removal equipment can help optimize fermentation condition and improve consistency. Efficient pod breaking and pulp management are essential for producing high quality fermented beans. Now we arrive at the most important stage of cocoa post-harvest handling, namely fermentation. Fermentation is often called the heart of cocoa processing because it is the stage where the characteristic chocolate flavor begins to develop. Without proper fermentation, even the best cocoa variety cannot produce high quality chocolate. The main objectives of fermentation are first to remove the mucilaginous pulp surrounding the beans. Second, to kill the embryo inside the seed so that germination stops. Third, to trigger biochemical reactions that generate flavor and aroma precursors. Fourth, to reduce bitterness and astringency that naturally exist in fresh cocoa beans. And fresh cocoa beans do not smell like chocolate. In fact, they have a rather bitter and acidic taste. The chocolate flavor that consumers enjoy is developed gradually through fermentation and later enhanced during roasting. The fermentation process usually lasts between 4 and 5 days for Forastero and can be slightly longer for Criollo or Trinitario varieties. The success of fermentation strongly influence bean quality, market price, and consumer acceptance. Okay, the slide shows common fermentation containers. Traditionally, farmers use bamboo baskets or wooden boxes with drainage holes. Wooden fermentation boxes are preferred because they provide good insulation and help maintain temperature. Several conditions must be fulfilled for successful fermentations. The minimum quantity of wet beans should be around 40 kilograms. Why is it this important? Because microbial activity generates heat. If the quantity is too small, heat cannot accumulate and fermentation becomes incomplete. The bean mass should have a minimum height of about 40 centimeters to ensure adequate temperature development. Fermentation generally lasts 4 to 5 days, and the bean mass should be turned on the third day. On the third day to improve aeration and ensure uniform microbial activity. Temperature control is extremely important because the microorganism responsible for fermentation require specific environmental conditions. Successful fermentation depends on several environmental factors. The first factor is temperature. During fermentation, temperature gradually rises from approximately 25 to more than 50 degrees Celsius. The second factor is oxygen availability. At the beginning of fermentation, conditions are mostly anaerobic because the thick pulp limits oxygen penetration. As fermentation progresses and the pulp breaks down, oxygen enters the bean mass and different microorganisms become dominant. The third factor is pH. The acidity of the environment changes continuously due to microbial metabolism. This dynamic change creates ideal conditions for a succession of microorganisms that collectively contribute to flavor development. Therefore, fermentation is not simply a decomposition process, but rather a highly complex microbial ecosystem. One fascinating aspect of cocoa fermentation is microbial succession. Different microorganisms dominate at different stages. The process generally involves three major groups: yeast, lactic acid bacteria, and acetic acid bacteria. Each group performs a specific role. The microorganisms work sequentially rather than simultaneously. The metabolites produced by one group become substrate for the next group. This microbial succession creates the conditions necessary for flavor precursor formation. If one stage fails, the subsequent stages are affected, resulting in poor fermentation quality. This is why controlling fermentation duration, aeration, and bean mass size is critical. The first phase occurs during the first 24 to 48 hours. It's yeast fermentation or anaerobic phase. At this stage, oxygen availability is very low because the beans are surrounded by thick pulp. Under these anaerobic conditions, yeast becomes the dominant microorganism. Several yeast species are commonly found, including Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Hansennia spora species. The pulp surrounding cocoa beans contain approximately 10 to 50% sugars. Yeast utilize these sugars as an energy source. Through alcoholic fermentation, sugars are converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The reaction can be simplified as sugar becomes ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. As uh, carbon dioxide accumulate, As carbon dioxide accumulates, oxygen levels decrease further, reinforcing anaerobic conditions. Meanwhile, pectinolytic enzymes produced by yeast begin degrading the pulp. As a result, the pulp becomes more liquid and starts draining away from the bean mass. This phase is essential because it prepares the environment for the next microbial growth. Without sufficient yeast activity, fermentation efficiency decreases significantly. Phase 2 is lactic acid bacteria. During the second phase, conditions become semi-anaerobic. The breakdown of pulp allows some oxygen penetration. At this stage, lactic acid bacteria become dominant. Species such as Lactobacillus fermentum are frequently identified in cocoa fermentation. These bacteria metabolize sugars and organic compounds to produce lactic acid. The production of lactic acid lowers the pH and further modifies the fermentation environment. Lactic acid bacteria contribute to flavor complexity and influence the acidity profile of the final cocoa beans. Their activity generally peaks between 36 and 48 hours after fermentation begins. At this stage, the bean mass becomes softer. The pulp continues to degrade and the microbial population becomes increasingly diverse. The interactions among microorganisms during this phase are extremely important for achieving balanced flavor development. Phase 3 or aerobic phase or acetic acid bacteria. The third phase is perhaps the most critical stage of cocoa fermentation. After the bean mass is turned, oxygen availability increases dramatically. This favors the growth of acetic acid bacteria, particularly Acetobacter species. These bacteria convert ethanol produced during the yeast phase into acetic acid. The reaction generates substantial heat. As a result, fermentation temperatures can rise to between 42 and 52 degrees Celsius. This increase in temperature is extremely important. The combination of heat and acid penetrates the bean cotyledon and kills the embryo. Once the embryo dies, cellular structures break down and endogenous enzymes become active. These enzymes initiate several biochemical reactions. Uh, Proteins are hydrolyzed into peptides and amino acids. Carbohydrates are converted into reducing sugars. Polyphenols begin to oxidize. These compounds later act as flavor precursor during roasting. Therefore, the acetic acid phase essentially transforms a bitter seed into a raw material capable of producing chocolate flavor. Okay, the most common method for evaluating fermentation quality is the cut test. Beans are cut longitudinally and their internal color is examined. Color provides valuable information about fermentation process. Well fermented beans typically show a uniform brown color. Partially fermented beans appear purple or partially purple. Unfermented beans exhibit a slaty appearance. The cut test is widely used because it is simple, inexpensive, and highly informative. Many buyers use cut test results as part of quality assessment before purchasing cocoa beans. Okay, we start from slaty beans. Slaty beans are considered one of the major defects in cocoa quality. They are characterized by a dark gray, bluish, or slate colored appearance. The texture is compact and dense when cut. These beans indicate insufficient fermentation because the necessary biochemical reactions didn't occur. Slaty beans retain excessive bitterness and astringency. They also lack the characteristic chocolate aroma expected by manufacturers. For this reason, international quality standards restrict the percentage of slaty beans allowed in premium cocoa lots. A high percentage of slaty beans often results in lower market price. And then purple beans. Yeah. Purple beans indicate incomplete fermentation. Although some biochemical changes have occurred, the process wasn't completed. Several factors may cause this problem: insufficient fermentation time, poor aeration, inadequate bean quantity, and then low temperature development, excessive pulp content, and then poor turning practices. Yeah, uh, that are the factors. Yeah. Purple beans often produce chocolate with stronger bitterness and less developed flavor. Therefore, monitoring fermentation conditions is essential to ensure that most beans achieve a fully brown appearance. A well-fermented cocoa bean is the foundation of premium chocolate production. After fermentation is completed and flavor precursors have been formed, the next critical step is to stop microbial activity and reduce moisture content. This brings us to the washing and drying stages, which are equally important for preserving the quality developed during fermentation. The primary objectives of washing are to remove residual pulp attached to the bean surface and then improve the visual appearance of the beans and accelerate the drying process. Beans with less residual pulp generally dry faster because there is less moisture to evaporate. Washing can also reduce the amount of adhering testa or shell material and may decrease the risk of fungal growth during drying and storage. However, washing also has disadvantages. First, it can reduce yield because some soluble solids are lost during washing. Second, washed beans tend to become more fragile and may crack during transportation or storage. Third, washing increase water usage and labor costs. Therefore, processors must consider whether the benefits outweigh the disadvantages based on their production objectives. In Indonesia, washing is often performed when beans contain excessive pulp after fermentation. After fermentation and optional washing, the next critical step is drying. Drying is extremely important because fresh fermented beans still contain approximately 55 to 60% moisture. At this moisture level, microbial activity continues and spoilage can occur rapidly. The objective of drying is to reduce moisture content to approximately 7%. This moisture level is considered safe for storage and export. The traditional drying method is sun drying. In this method, cocoa beans are spread on drying floors, mats, trays, or raised platforms. Under favorable weather conditions, drying usually requires 7 to 9 days. The beans should be turned every 1 to 2 hours to ensure uniform drying and prevent mold development. The thickness of the bean layer should not exceed 3 to 5 centimeters. If the layer is too thick, moisture removal becomes uneven and fungal contamination may occur. And sun drying remains popular because it is inexpensive and environmentally friendly. However, its effectiveness depends heavily on weather conditions. Although sun drying is widely practiced, it presents several challenges. The biggest limitation is dependence on weather conditions. During rainy seasons, drying becomes difficult and may take much longer than expected. In tropical countries such as Indonesia, the peak cocoa harvest often coincides with periods of high rainfall. As a result, farmers may struggle to achieve the desired moisture content. Prolonged drying increases the risk of mold growth, insect infestation, and quality deterioration. Another issue is drying capacity. During peak harvest periods, farmers may produce more cocoa than can be accommodated on available drying surfaces. This creates bottlenecks in the pre-harvest chain. Consequently, some beans may be stored temporarily under unsuitable conditions, reducing quality. For these reasons, alternative drying technologies have been developed. Mechanical drying provides a solution to many limitations associated with sun drying. In mechanical dryers, heated air is used to remove moisture from cocoa beans. The recommended drying temperature is generally between 55 and 60 degrees Celsius. This temperature range is important because excessively high temperatures can damage flavor precursors that were formed during fermentation. Mechanical drying offers several advantages. First, it is independent of weather conditions. Second, drying can continue throughout the day and night. Third, drying conditions can be controlled more precisely, resulting in more consistent product quality. Typically, mechanical drying requires approximately 40 to 50 hours to reduce moisture content to the desired level. However, the main disadvantage is the higher investment and operating costs. Fuel, maintenance, and equipment costs must be considered. Therefore, mechanical dryers are often operated collectively by farmer groups or cooperatives. A practical approach frequently used in cocoa processing is the combined drying system. This method integrates the advantage of both sun drying and mechanical drying. Initially, beans are sun dried for 1 or 2 days until moisture content decreases to approximately 20 or 25%. Afterward, drying is completed using a mechanical dryer. This approach reduces fuel consumption because a significant portion of moisture is removed using free solar energy. At the same time, the mechanical dryer ensures that the final moisture content can be achieved regardless of weather condition. Combined drying is often considered the most of efficient and economical approach for medium and large scale cocoa operations. It balances cost efficiency and with product quality. And then this slide illustrates a mechanical cocoa dryer. Understanding the components help us appreciate how the system works. The burner generates heat through full combustion. The heat exchanger transfers heat to the airflow while preventing direct contact between combustion gases and cocoa beans. This is important because smoke contamination can negatively affect bean flavor and quality. The transmission system distributes mechanical power to moving parts. The drying chamber holds the cocoa beans during drying. Warm air flows through the bean mass and carries moisture away. The efficiency of the drying process depends on airflow rate, temperature control, and proper loading capacity. Modern dryer designs focus on maximizing energy efficiency while preserving bean quality. This slide presents several generations of cocoa drying equipment. As technology advances, drying system becomes more more efficient, reliable, and user-friendly. Early generations were relatively simple and had lower capacity. Newer generations offer improved heat distribution, better airflow management, higher energy efficiency, and larger processing capacities. The evolution of drying technology reflects the increasing demand for consistent cocoa quality. Modern dryers help producers comply with export standards and reduce post-harvest losses. Technological innovation in drying remains an active area of research because drying is one of the most energy-intensive post-harvest operations. This slide introduces the concept of integrated cocoa processing. Traditionally, only cocoa beans were considered valuable products. while potash and pulp were treated as waste. Today, the concept has changed significantly. Integrated processing aims to utilize every component of the cocoa fruit. The beans can be processed into cocoa liquor, cocoa butter, cocoa powder, and chocolate products. The pot husks can be converted into compost, organic fertilizer, biochar, or animal feed. The pulp can be used to produce beverages, syrups, vinegar, uh, ethanol, and nata de cocoa. This approach supports sustainability because it minimizes waste generation. Furthermore, integrated processing creates additional source of income and increase the overall value obtained from cocoa production. This is an important concept in modern agro industry and circular economy systems. Uh, so this is a quality control and moisture tester. Quality control is essential throughout the post-harvest process. One of the most important quality parameters is moisture content. If moisture content is too high, mold growth becomes more likely. Fungal contamination can lead to the productions of mycotoxins, which are harmful to human health and unacceptable in international markets. To prevent this problem, processors use moisture meters. These devices provide rapid and accurate measurements of moisture content. Modern moisture meters are portable and easy to use in the field. They can measure moisture levels in various agriculture commodities, including cocoa beans. Before storage or export, processors should verify that moisture content is within acceptable limits, generally around 7%. Quality control also includes monitoring bean size, fermentation quality, and contamination levels, and physical defects. Consistent quality control helps ensure customer satisfaction and compliance with international standards. The final stage before marketing is packaging and storage. Uh, Even if cocoa beans have been harvested, fermented, and dried properly, poor storage conditions can still damage product quality. Therefore, packaging and storage should never be underestimated. Cocoa beans are commonly packed in clean jute sacks or woven bags. Each package should be properly labeled with information such as product type, quality grade, and producer identity. Storage facilities should be clean, dry, and well ventilated. Relative humidity should remain below 75% to prevent moisture absorption. One unique characteristic of cocoa beans is their ability to absorb odors from the surrounding environment. For this reason, cocoa should never be stored near materials with strong smells such as chemicals, fuels, spices, fertilizers, or pesticides. The sacks should be stacked on wooden pallets rather than directly on the floor. This prevents moisture transfer from the floor and improve air circulation. Adequate spacing should also be maintained between the sacks, walls, and ceiling. Proper storage preserves bean quality, extends shelf life, and ensures that The flavor characteristics developed during fermentation are maintained under processing. So far, we have discussed how to produce high-quality cocoa beans through proper post-harvest handling. However, modern cocoa industries do not stop at dried beans. The next topic focuses on how cocoa byproducts can be transformed into valuable products through diversification and value-added processing. Traditionally, cocoa farmers generate income only from selling dried cocoa beans. However, this approach has limitation because farmers are highly dependent on fluctuating commodity prices on the global market. One strategy to increase profitability is to diversify cocoa-based products. Interestingly, not only cocoa beans can be utilized, other parts of the cocoa fruit, especially the pulp, also have economic potential. During cocoa processing, large quantities of pulp are usually discarded as waste. In reality, cocoa pulp contains sugars, organic acids, vitamins, minerals, and aromatic compounds that make it suitable for producing value-added products. Examples include cocoa juice, syrup, vinegar, wine, ethanol, and nata de cocoa. Product diversification offers several advantages. First, it increases the economic value obtained from each kilogram of harvested cocoa. Second, it reduces waste generation and supports sustainable agriculture. And third, it creates new business opportunities for farmer groups, cooperatives, and small industries. For example, instead of selling cocoa beans only, a farmer cooperative could simultaneously produce cocoa syrup and nata de cocoa from the pulp, thereby generating additional income. This concept aligns with modern agricultural development, which emphasizes maximizing resource utilization and implementing a circular economy. In the future, successful cocoa industry will not only focus on bean production but also on the utilization of cocoa component. For example, this is a nata de cocoa production process. Nata de cocoa is a cellulose-based food product produced through microbial fermentation of cocoa pulp. The concept is very similar to the production of nata de coco, which is made from coconut water. The production process generally involves several steps. After pot breaking, the pulp surrounding of the cocoa beans is collected. Normally, this pulp is considered by-product of waste material. However, because it contains high concentration of sugars, it serves as an excellent substrate for microbial growth. The, the pulp is filtered to remove impurities and obtain a homogeneous liquid. Additional sugar and nutrients may be added to optimize fermentation conditions. The pH is adjusted to create a suitable environment for bacterial growth. The medium is and then the medium is sterilized. The medium is heated to eliminate unwanted microorganisms. This step is important because contamination can interfere with the fermentation process and reduce product quality. Step 4, inoculation. The sterilized medium is inoculated with Acetobacter sillinum, which is now commonly classified as Comagotebacter And then fermentation using lasts between 7 and 40 days. During this period, the bacteria continuously convert sugars into cellulose. The cellulose accumulates and forms a thick nata sheet. The thickness depends on fermentation duration, nutrient availability, temperature, and bacterial activity. The importance of nata de cocoa extends beyond food production. It demonstrates how agricultural waste can be transformed into valuable product. So, in conclusion, post-harvest technology plays a critical role in determining the quality, safety, and economic value of cocoa. The post-harvest chain begins with proper harvesting and continues through pod breaking, fermentation, drying, quality control, packaging, and storage. Among all these stages, fermentation is the most critical because it initiates the biochemical change necessary for chocolate flavor development. Proper drying and storage are equally important to preserve quality and prevent deterioration. Furthermore, modern cocoa industries should move beyond simply selling dried beans. Through integrated processing and product diversification, every component of the cocoa fruit can be utilized efficiently. Products such as cocoa butter, cocoa powder, chocolate, cocoa juice, syrup, nata de cocoa demonstrate the enormous potential for value addition. By adopting improved post-harvest technologies, Indonesia can enhance cocoa quality, increase farmer income, strengthen export competitiveness, and promote sustainable agricultural development. Thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to answer any questions. Good cocoa is produced in the field, but great chocolate is created through excellent post-harvest handling. Thank you very much.